In the summer of 2019, Super Smash Bros. Was sitting on top of the world, but underneath the hype, the community was suffering from a massive collective existential crisis. Fans dubbed it the anime swordsman fatigue. Super Smash Bros. Prides itself on unique gameplay mechanics across its wide cast of characters, but with so many, it was inevitable that something would get repetitive, and that became sword characters, specifically anime swordsmen. So every time there was an upcoming DLC, fans half-jokingly begged for no more swords. If you've ever played Smash Bros, you know what I'm talking about. So, when Nintendo announced they was collaborating with Square Enix for a new crossover DLC, all eyes were on Masahiro Sakurai. He found himself in a very particular situation. If he didn't perfect the next DLC, he would be walking straight into a firing squad. But he had a vision. His vision was the hero from Dragon Quest. On paper, this was a death sentence. The hero is literally the grandfather of generic anime swordsmen, like to a T it was the definition. If Hero was just given a generic sword kit like Marth or Ike, the Western fanbase would have lost their fucking mind. Sakurai knew he had to do something completely radical to satisfy fans while honouring his vision. He needed to gamble the entire design philosophy of what he created back on January 21st, 1999, the foundation of the Super Smash Bros. Series. And he did not disappoint. Act 1. The Roadblock. Super Smash Bros. Prides itself on being the game of, hey look, everyone is here! Except this Japanese crossover game was missing one of the most culturally impactful Japanese games in history. Sakurai had admitted in an interview that fans had been begging him to put Dragon Quest and Smash Bros. For over a decade, but he always refused because he believed it was impossible due to the franchise's sacred and strict rules. Sakurai approached Square Enix and Yuji Horii with an incredibly passionate pitch about integrating a Dragon Quest hero into Super Smash Bros. At first, Square Enix couldn't see his vision, and instead floated around the idea of an easier and less controversial alternative of using a monster as a playable character instead. But Sakurai outright refused. He wanted to honour the legacy of Dragon Quest and align it with his vision, and he believed in it when nobody else did. But the biggest headache was the legal nightmare. Unlike most gaming franchises owned by one big corporation, Dragon Quest is owned by a trinity. Most people think it's Square Enix, and yes, they are important, but the legal tension comes from the companies of Yuji Horii, Akira Toriyama, and Koichi Sugiyama, who all three own Dragon Quest. Sugiyama especially was so notorious for his licensing rules. He heavily restricted his music from being remixed or used outside of his own works. But the biggest restriction blocking Sakurai's vision was the incredibly strict law clauses put forth by Square Enix, which restricts how their protagonists are allowed to exist. It's not known everything that his presentation consisted of, but it is said to be so ridiculously dense, hyper-detailed, and filled with passion, his pitch was greenlit, and work could finally begin. But that pitch contained a certain mechanic that on paper should never exist in Super Smash Bros. Act 2. Building a hero. One thing we do know about Sakurai's vision, he wanted to include 9 playable Dragon Quest characters as reskins of the default hero. The default was to be the Luminary from DQ11 to promote the newest game, and having Erdrick from DQ3 was non-negotiable, since DQ3 was such a sacred cultural phenomenon in Japan. Leaving Erdrick out of Smash would be like leaving Mario out of a Nintendo game. But then the cuts came along. Straight away, as part of the law clause, the hero of Dragon Quest V was not allowed to be added into Sakurai's plan purely since Hero wields a sword, where in the game, he wields a magic staff. This hero is arguably the most beloved in the series, so it was a big hit when it was inevitably disqualified. And then the frame rate and hitboxes forced out the heroes of Dragon Quest 7 and 9, due to being such smaller and childlike models. In this sort of fighting game, every character reskin model must share the exact same hitboxes and skeletons, so they too was immediately disqualified. The classic hero of Dragon Quest I didn't have a unified official design. He had his original design and a reskin in the spin-off Kenshin, which looks completely different. Of course, now we have the confirmed modern design in the HD 2D remake, but back in 2019, this would mean Square Enix would have to make an official design announcement on a game that wasn't even made by them. So that forced out another hero, and finally the lore clause kicks in again with the hero of Dragon Quest II, since it's a fundamental part of his character that he cannot cast spells. And you might be asking, what about the heroes of Dragon Quest 6 and 10? Well, I've got nothing to tell you. I guess he just didn't want them, probably because of low sales. Dragon Quest X was exclusive to Japan only, and it still is, so any global players wouldn't know who they are. And for the hero of Dragon Quest VI, well, he holds the same sword as the hero of Dragon Quest IV, and he's not really a spellcaster unless the player makes him one. So that's my educated guess. This leaves 4 characters with a canonical fit for Smash Bros. The Luminary from DQ11, Erdrick from DQ3, Hero from DQ8, and Solo from DQ4, the best looking one. And I think it's a stroke of genius that the colour variations are actually based from other characters in the series, so technically we got Dragon Quest V in here. Sakurai hated that he was forced to leave out the other generations of heroes. In order to honour his original dream, he found a loophole. They couldn't be playable skins, but there was nothing to say that they couldn't appear in the hero's cinematic final smash attack. Dragon Quest inspired a large amount of the Smash Bros roster. I'm not even kidding. All of the Pokemon characters, Joker, Shulk, Pyrrha, Mythra, Cloud, Sephiroth, Sora, Ness, Lucas, Marth, Roy, Ike, Byleth, all of these characters come from games inspired by Dragon Quest, so it was imperative that Sakurai could make Hero feel distinct to every other fighter in the game. Sakurai's brilliant and unhinged idea was to drop a randomizer directly into the intensely fast-paced battles of Smash Bros. Let's compare this to the structure of every single Smash Bros character ever. It's all about muscle memory, predictable input, faking your opponent, learning hitboxes, and sometimes crazy long combos, but every button always did exactly what it was supposed to do. Now, that has all changed. Sakurai decided to give the hero a fully functional magic point system, and when you press down B, a menu popped up on screen listing 4 completely random spells from Dragon Quest, and these 4 was pulled from a massive pool of 21. To play Hero, you couldn't just rely on fighting game instincts, which is good for me because I actually do suck at Smash. Instead, you literally have to stop and read 4 lines of text, memorize what all 21 of these spells do, and make that critical decision so fast before your opponent reaches you. And in Smash Bros, this is an incredibly short amount of time. If you comboed Snooze, you could put your enemy straight to sleep, and the standard attacks also had a very high critical hit rate. On top of this, he actually had one of the longest sword hitboxes in the game. Sure, he was technically a generic anime sword fighter, but Sakurai turned him into a machine that tore entire professional communities apart. Act 3. The day Dragon Quest broke Super Smash Bros. This was the average Japanese reaction.
本当にやばい。こんなんさ、本当にふざけてんの？
やばくね？やばい。いや、先生。よっしゃ。マジか。ああ、楽しい。ありがとう。ありがとう、桜井さん。ああ、よかった。かっけえ。先生、バレてきた。バレた。バレたわ。桜井さん大好き。すごい涙が出る。やった。やった。
And then this was the average global reaction one day later.
Shake my hand! Shake my hand! I'm not gonna shake.
Oh, immediate snooze.
Immediate snooze and a psych up?
Wow.
Whack!
Wow! Oh, Packer's not happy.
Oh!
He's out.
Oh, a disconnect!
It wouldn't matter if you're the best player in the world, the hero could instantly kill you on 0%. Smash is a game built entirely around percentage scaling and surviving until Hero joined the battle, or worse, there's this. Kamikaze became the ultimate sign of disrespect, the ultimate rage-baiting spell. This broke friendships, I witnessed it with my eyes. The competitive esports scene entered a state of pure civil war, with some high-profile players heading to Twitter and even claiming the hero was an anti-competitive joke that ruins the integrity of the game, which then started to force the bans. In August 2019, the tournament organisers at South Australia Smash Central made global gaming headlines by officially banning Hero from all competitive tournaments. Their public statement argued that Hero relied too heavily on luck, which stripped away the competitive integrity of the game. This panic quickly spread to Europe. Nintendo of France moved to block the hero from major tournaments, and communities began debating whether a character that's essentially built on RNG belonged in a professional esport. Eventually, the corporate stakes got so high, Nintendo's European headquarters had to step in, issuing a forced mandate to tournaments all across Europe, legalizing Hero. Their official statement overruled all local tournaments and their word was final. Hero was allowed. But Nintendo had a purpose to this mandate, because even with these random tools, Hero is not officially considered overpowered. He is quite slow and struggles against fast characters. Good players can easily outmaneuver him, and his luck relies on smart management and critical thinking. If you rage to Hero, just get good. Act 4. The genius of the disaster. Looking back at the absolute chaos of that summer, it raises a huge question. Did Hero actually break Smash Bros, or did he save it? If you view Smash Bros as a competitive esport, Hero, of course, is probably a complete disaster to you. However, Sakurai never viewed it that way. To him, Smash is a celebration and a museum of gaming history. By making Hero an unpredictable, chaotic mess, Sakurai succeeded in translating the emotional soul of Dragon Quest into a fighting game. And Dragon Quest is sort of the opposite of Smash Bros. It's not fast-paced or reliant on frame-perfect combos. It is a series of brilliant, and I mean brilliant, turn-based stories that change the fundamental template of what RPG narratives could be. Most Western Smash Bros players had never heard of Dragon Quest before this DLC. I know so many people who was like this. I played with so many Smash players who were like, what's Dragon Quest? It was genuinely their first introduction to the series, and I honestly think that's a crime. If this was you, I would highly suggest checking out this series. It's changed millions of people's lives for having such rich, emotional, and relatable stories. If you want to get into Dragon Quest, check out my channel. I've got everything Dragon Quest here for you, and we always welcome new fans. Eventually, the community learned how to counter Hero. Opponents learned to read Hero's menu just as fast as the person playing him and prepared a counter for his moves before they even came. But for that one crazy month in the summer of 2019, Hero genuinely caused turmoil in the community. Some players still tried to push for him to be banned. But here's the silver lining. At least he's not Steve.